What you are about to hear will blow your mind and give you six-pack abs without even exercising.
Pull up a bar stool and relax.
Hey, who wants to have some fun?
You've made it to Happy Hour with John Gaskins.
Oh, no. Not again.
Get ready for entertaining local and regional sports talk that will change your life. Or not.
And by the way, when you're telling these little stories, here's a good idea. Have a point. It makes it so much more interesting for the listener.
Here's your host, John Gaskins.
Here's Johnny. Hello! Ah!
I'm back, baby! I'm back!
Here we are, Jackrabbit Media Day in Brookings, and we're in the old coach's office. Now it's an office next to the head coach's office in the Stiegelmeier Center, just above, one story above the field, the end zone, Dana J. Dykhouse Stadium. We'd love for you to be able to see it behind us, but lighting works out better here. It feels like we're on a TV set almost, and I am with the man who's this facility is named after, John Stiegelmeier, 26-year head coach, national champion on the way out. You know that. He's heading into his fourth season not being the coach and working for the SDSU Foundation. And he just got back from Canton, Ohio to watch one of his former players, Adam Vinatieri, be inducted. So we'll talk about that experience. It's just good to see you. You were walking down the hallway, and we are right next door to your old office. And, of course, people are stopping you and saying hi. And so you're still kind of here in a way. You're just not out there. Is that weird to not be out there?
Well, it is weird, especially this time of year. As a football coach, it's football time, if you will, and I get asked all the time, do I miss it? I miss everything about it. Yeah. Every long day, every film session, every player meeting, which means I'm summing up why I say I was blessed beyond to have the job. And this is like a TV set because they take a lot of pictures in here during recruiting.
There you go. I see.
And so it's kind of cool the way it's set up.
For those who can't see it, you got some old lockers, I'm sure, from the old locker rooms with a couple letter jackets and Jack's jerseys. And we got the old bench, too. Must be an old bench from old Coughlin alumni or maybe even before that. But you always say, you've been saying this now for 3 years, that you do miss it. You miss almost everything about it. Where does this time of the calendar, mid-August, 2 weeks away from the first game, so you're kind of entrenched into fall camp now, and that's becoming a routine, hot days, and just practice. Where does that rank in the stuff that you miss the most?
I think I miss the most. I know I do. The personal part. The player relationships and the coaches' strategy and literally putting our heads together and trying to figure out what we think is the best. Yeah. Where does the grind? I woke up this morning early and I thought, is Dan Jackson up yet? And I know he was up. Yeah. And so the grind, the term grind is hard. I mean, it's negative, but some things you embrace, and that's one of the things you embrace. I would love to be out there in that field, saying in the back of my mind that DB's got to be a little lower and write that down and suggest that to the coach. So I miss it.
Well, so that's generally what you're doing as the head coach. You didn't oversee either offense or defense. You're taking your notes, but are you sharing those notes in real time or just later on?
Later on.
It's all over.
Yeah.
Okay.
I had always done this in some way, shape, or form, but we went on a professional visit to Wisconsin. Brett Bielema was the head football coach. We went over to learn defense, ask questions and stuff, which is one of the ways you grow as a football coach in a program and a staff. And I watched him walk around with a manila folder taking notes, and it was so honoring because I got 15 minutes with him at the end of the day, and he took out that same manila folder. And he asked me, what'd you see today in practice? He was asking me, a guy in the Big Ten, And it just reinforced how important. He was going to write those notes on the notes for the day. So back to your statement, I apologize.
It's okay.
I would never say that on the field. If the most blatant error on the field, I would never correct a coach.
Sure.
That coach has got to be the expert to his players. And so in this room, the staff room, and in their private meeting room, in general, I might say, hey, men, we're teachers. Right? Were you prepared for your meeting today? I stopped in on a couple meetings and I didn't see the lesson on the board. I didn't see the notes on the board, and just continually reinforcing the way I was taught to be a football coach.
Interesting. And at the same time, what else are you looking for? Because you're looking at the micro, and you said, the DB's stance or the way he's moving or whatever. But then there might be the macro. I've heard stories of you, and this isn't uncommon, I'm sure, to any head coach, where whether it's fall camp or during the season or spring, if a practice is just overall dragging to some degree, I've heard stories about you just blowing the whistle really loud and hard, and that means get over here, and you kind of had to kick everybody into high gear, right?
Well, I didn't do that very often. You have to. You have to, evaluate the situation. If things are dragging, like you say, I wasn't much for yelling at guys, because if you yell at them, you got to yell at them all the time to get their attention. And I just was standing beside Tony Dungy at this Hall of Fame event, and I remember seeing him as the Vikings coordinator. It was so impressive. He's out on the field. The wind's blowing, and he's talking normal.
Yeah.
And I thought that's so impressive that those guys have to strain to hear it, but he's not gonna change. He's not gonna say, I've got to yell at you to get you to be motivated. So I did stop practice on a fight. We always did up downs when guys fought, and I've been reading stuff about how guys think fighting in practice is good and this, that, and the other thing, and I felt fighting is a form of losing your control. Yeah. And football is a game of being in control, so I thought it was a teaching moment.
Well, is it true that you would have the two guys that would fight after the end of the practice hug each other?
We had a tradition that we start practice. I thought this was really cool because I was the head coach. So, I'd make announcements, and then they'd find a guy on the other side of the ball. So an offensive guy would find a defensive guy, and they'd shake hands, and they would say, last play. All right. Now, what does that mean? In our program, it meant, and they still have this on the back of their helmets, I believe. Last play means you better practice, you better play, you better embrace every moment. It's like your last moment, because someday it will be your last moment. For these guys, their lifespan as a football player is short in reality, and so why not give it all? And then at the end, they found the same guy and said last play to reinforce. Yeah. I think it became a tradition maybe and whatever, but I really wanted it to mean something. I'm going to practice my tail off for you, and you're on the other side of the ball.
So, I know you've been to some practices. Is that still being done?
It is not. Well, I haven't been here at the start of practice or at the end, so maybe it is. I don't think it is. I'll get credit this. Coaches take a lot of stuff from other people, and they last play came from a guy named Luke Meadows, who was our offensive line coach.
Yep, I remember.
And he had a sheet in those old trailers we used to have on the east side in his meeting room. When you went out, there was a sheet that said, "How do you want to be remembered?" Yeah, which really says last play.
Okay. Well, you bring up the trailers. I was going to bring up, if this was circa 2000 or 2005, this space didn't exist. It was in the air, right? Because this would have just been the open-aired end zone. These would be pine trees.
Pine trees,
We'd be in the middle of pine trees right now.
Planted by Warren Williamson, if you remember that name.
And even this facility was built, about circa 2010, 11, 12? But before the actual new quote-unquote stadium was built. And the room we're in right now, it's not a big room, it's not a small room, but it was big enough to hold your coaching staff meetings. And now they've expanded the staff to the point where they have to have it in an auditorium. The coaches' meetings in an auditorium. Is that correct? Or a bigger room.
Bigger room.
They
use one of the biggest meeting rooms to have, I believe. So.
And a micro example of that is Brian Bergstrom, who is your co-defensive coordinator with Jimmy Rogers your last couple of years before Jimmy took over as head coach, and Brian went on to Winona State. And now he's back here as the defensive coordinator. And at the time, first time around, he was also a position coach, and he doesn't have to do that anymore. How, in your mind, looking back to, because you were here through a lot of evolutions of investments, resources, how much of a difference do those little things make?
Sometimes it's immeasurable, but you do the things that help you.
Yeah.
And if you have an additional coach, an additional set of eyes, it can only help you. It's not going to hurt you.
Yeah.
I got to be careful with you because I got in trouble when I answered questions about budget years ago. You remember that conversation?
Just having nicer things.
I didn't know where you're going with that.
No.
So I'll give you an example. So we talked earlier before we recorded. I've been blessed to go to Vanderbilt's fall camp,
right.
and Clark Lee's the head coach, was one of our coaches, a phenomenal person, coach,
yeah.
dad, the whole deal. I was sitting in their staff room, and I think they had 51 people came in, and that didn't have everybody, right? They didn't have all of athletic training or all of, and so those staffs are huge. Ours is not even close to that, but I'll give you an example. At one point, we had the idea to have quality control. The coaches years ago were labeled. You have a full-time coach, you have a graduate assistant. They have different rules in terms of recruiting and what you can do on the field. And then quality control is like a fancy GA that can't coach. And we had that idea,
yeah, right.
Let's have one of those on each side of the ball, special teams, offense, defense, to do most of this film work to accelerate your week. In the NFL, they call them analysts. Division I, they call them analysts. I mean, literally full-time coaches, they don't coach. They just break down film. And Brad Seeley does that for the Eagles. Okay. I ran into him at Vinatieri's party, so we'll interweave a bunch of this
cool. But back to Dan being the man now. First of all, how often do you come here to the building, and how often do you go to practice?
Yeah, he's given me an open invitation. I will probably attend 6, 7 fall camp practices this year. I've only, because of schedule, I've been to one. This will be my second one to go out.
And what does he lean on you for? Like, what kinds of things, if he wants to get advice, or even maybe he asks for your observations of things? Take us in there to the conversations you may have with him.
I don't know if he leans on me for anything, because I've been removed and so many rules have changed so drastically in terms of how you manage a football program, how you build a roster, with NIL and with I would say early we talked more, and it was probably more about how does the budget work, how did I do scholarships, and he kind of knew that, but I think it was just reinforcing what he believed in at the time. I think it's so important that Dan Jackson understands who Dan Jackson is and who God made him to be, and he doesn't mimic anything I did or Coach Rogers did or anybody he was with.
What have you observed about him just in general, about the way he, and let's say practice, since we're watching one literally right now, covering one today, the way he goes about leading them, and also maybe just from either conversations you've had or just observations you've seen of him operate, how different, better, more comfortable things are from last August to this August? Because certainly the circumstances are a lot different.
Well, he's a natural head coach. There's nothing about being a head coach that he has to work on hard because it's foreign to him or it's awkward for him. And take all the things a head coach does, from the lowest, whatever it might be, answering questions about equipment, to staying in front of the press today and painting a clear picture in front of the players.
I don't know if I would call that the pinnacle of the profession, but okay.
Well, anyway, those are some of the things he does. Anyway, he's really, really good at that. What's different this year? Surely, whether it's relational or your job or whatever your job it is, one more year under your belt, it's easier. And so I think he's much more at peace. He's calmer, but he does such a great job. I don't think that would be easy to see. Yeah. I think that would be internal, not external.
Okay. The last few years, you're head coach. I'm just obligatory last few. I mean, you probably were ranked in the top 5 in the preseason polls each year. At that point, you were getting used to that, and picked to win the Valley, or you and North Dakota State neck and neck. So big expectations were something you were used to, and they were here last year. They were ranked, I'm sure, in the top 5 preseason poll last year, but it didn't end up to be the year that they thought it would be. And it feels like this year it feels even stronger because Chase Mason is back. They've got a lot more experience returning than most other teams in the country. When the expectations were high, is that something you worried about affecting players, coaches at all? Did it affect the way you operated at all as a head coach or a staff, or is that stuff that's easily blocked out this time of year?
I think it's a balancing act. I mean, you want to have – people ask me all the time, how are we going to be this year? We, meaning the Jackrabbit football program. And I say this, and this intersects with what you're asking. The guys that walk into this facility believe and have the grounds to believe, the proof to believe they're going to win a national championship, compete for a national championship. Now, that to me is a powerful statement because how many other programs are like that? I mean, they all say that. It's in their manuals. The coach says that. Yeah. But when you say it, is it in your heart? I mean, is it deep down inside the heartbeat of this program? And so with that comes top 5 rankings like you're talking about. Is that pressure? No, that's respect and how you handle it. If you talk about it too much, it becomes a distraction. But that's Dan and the other coach's job to say, you've earned this. Now, look, we got to prove it, right? So we'll remind you, but we got to prove it.
How many practices have you been to so far in fall camp?
Just one.
Okay, before this one today. So when you're out here, what are you looking for? I mean, is it kind of the same things you were looking for as a head coach? Just and by the way, what did you see out of the one that you've been to? That's a broad loaded question, either operationally or one unit, whatever.
What I see is great effort. Guys that I talked about last play, right? Guys that are practicing like it's their last play. What I really look for, how you started the question, I believe, is, and you're keeping me from this, is I like to be here during individual time. As we look out there, they're working on drills. I like to watch coaches coach. When it's team and everybody's going, how good are they going to be? You can't see that. You can't tell unless you get a coach's spot out in the middle, and then you still watch the film. Yeah. And so I really like to watch coaches coach. I referred to that earlier as a head coach about coaches being teachers. I'm a mathematician by trade. In theory, there's 2% are excellent coaches. By percent. And so we've had a lot of them here. But I'm talking about all coaches. Get into little statistics, the normal curve, and so on. So I'm sure you passed statistics.
I actually really liked statistics.
Did you?
I did. Yeah, it's part of my job actually, because there's a lot of stats, both as a play-by-play guy, and if I'm trying to formulate some sort of opinion about something, I better have stats to back it up. So it's it's fun. And certainly a guy, if you want to talk about specific coaches, I mean, the offensive coordinator, everybody, and I'm going to do this when I talk to Eric Eidsness today, is there's all kinds of stats that float out there. It's the glitzy and glammy side of the ball. What I want to ask you about him is, obviously he was your offensive coordinator for years when this was rising to become a top 10 and then top 5 program, and he had Austin Sumner and Taryn Christian for multiple years. If you can remember vividly, once you get to the senior year of a proven, experienced quarterback like Austin Sumner in 2014, Taryn Christian in 2018, you get Chase Mason this year. He only has 9 games from last year under his belt, but we all know and see and understand his capabilities. When Eric's working with that, what do you remember about how he approaches that and how good it can get?
Well, he's very, very, very thorough. All right, he will give Chase will be prepared. All right, Chase will get all the information he needs. And then it depends on who that senior quarterback is, too, Is he a guy that wants all that stuff and can make the checks and give him 3 things, run the ball here or pass the ball there? But if it's this, some guys can do that. Well, Eric has the ability to do that and teach it and give it to a player in a digestible manner or system. And then he coaches on the field, I've been to a lot of practices. We talked about that. And there's a lot of coaches wait until the film session. Well, there's no better, I learned in college, there's no better time for knowledge of results, all right, to give it to them right after if you're learning a golf swing, you wouldn't take 100 swings and then watch the film and then go back. You would get instant feedback. It's no different out there. Eric does a great job with that. And most importantly, I think, and I don't think, I'm certain, Eric is a really good person. So he's not ever going to take the most important guy in a football team, which some coaches do also, and rip away at his belief in himself. He may take him in the side room and say, hey, you had a bad practice today. I recognize that. Why was that? What's going on? Yeah. But it's not going to be ever in front of anybody. He's a positive person that believes in people.
Okay. And then on the other side, what do you notice about Brian Bergstrom, round 2, this time as the sole defensive coordinator, and the way he leads, and therefore what we can expect out of his defense?
Brian, like Eric, I'm a defensive guy, so this question goes deeper into my knowledge and soul, if you will. Brian, like Eric, is a very, very good football coach, very smart football coach. Very thorough, like I said, football coach. I could not do what he's doing and watch practice and not have a position. So I think I respect him for that. And essentially his biggest position group are his defensive coaches. You know, the guys that are working with him on that side of the ball. He will work tirelessly. Again, defense is different than offense. Offense, you can punt. Defense, you don't get to punt. And so he will work tirelessly to create that game plan that when it's 3rd and 5 on the left hash and it's on the plus 30, he'll know what the best. He'll have researched it and have the best. Yeah. Does it work always? No, because we're dealing with human beings.
Right.
But he'll have the right answer that they've come up with.
Okay. A couple more inside football type of practice and 2026 things, and then we'll get to the fun stuff like your trip to Canton and your upcoming visit to Ames to see Jimmy Rogers. And this might sound like a dumb media question, so forgive me. Last year, the Jacks opened with Sacramento State, a good FCS team, should warrant your full attention, but they had Montana State, who ended up being the national champion the next week. The year you won the national title, last year, you opened with Iowa. You opened with the Iowa Hawkeyes, a good Big Ten team right away. So when we're here in mid-August, or with 2 weeks to go before game week, how much the Jacks have Stetson this year, but then they have Northwestern, a Big Ten team. How much are you working? Does the opponent dictate how much you work on opponent's stuff this early before game 1? I guess is what I'm asking.
Is that a dumb?
I don't know. Is it? Is it?
You started out there. No,
coaches
it's not.
And you're not coaching anymore, but the coaches in the time will try to give respect to the first opponent. Then they'll tell you years later, oh, yeah, we were getting ready for whoever all season long.
Number one, I would never trust what a football coach tells you. I wouldn't even repeat it because it's, and I can go through a lot of stories.
Probably why I'm not going to ask Dan this question because I don't even know if I trust him.
So they are going to focus on Stetson. They're going to focus solely on Stetson. The best way in my mind, and I think Dan aligns with this, I know Jimmy does, Coach Rogers, the best way to prepare is to look at did I get better today?
Yeah.
Not did I master the Stetson stuff? Did I get better? So if you're always working on getting, and you never reach your potential, or you wouldn't keep going to the weight room, you wouldn't keep running. So did I get better as a football player? You will be prepared for Stetson, and then you bury that, play in the present, and look at Northwestern.
Like here, so I'll just ask you specifically. Like when you had Iowa as game 1, were you perhaps getting more into the Hawkeyes schemes? Whatever it was the game week, or it's the game week for sure. But before the game week of game 1, more than maybe say if like a Drake was your first opponent.
No, but yes and no.
Okay.
The thing you can do with your opener is you can start your prep earlier, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you don't just have a week; you have a month of practice, and so depending on the schemes, depending on the opponent, you might start and add 2 days and kind of ease into it.
All right.
If you will. If you take a normal game week, you play, You give him Sunday off. You watch the film Monday, introduce a little bit, and then you get Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday practice. He's got a lot of Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays or days to get ready because Friday's essentially a walkthrough. Okay. And so it's totally different regardless of the opponent of how much time you can spend on it. Yeah. Now, that also go back to Bergie and Eric, really smart football coaches, right? The fear there or the concern there was, well, let's put more in. Well, players are players. They can only master so much for those 60 minutes they play. So the danger of starting early is to put more offense and defense in, and that's not a good idea.
I mean, yes or no. It doesn't have to be a long, a nuanced answer. Are you more likely to put in more of your opponent's stuff when you have more experienced players that already have mastered the system?
Yes.
And
yes. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll give you talked about Chase Mason. A quarterback starting out, Mark Gronowski playing as a true freshman in COVID, and then playing his last year, not at Iowa, but his last year here, had much more stuff, many more opportunities to change the game on the field after the call was made. So, yes.
Okay.
That's why they talk about in the pros, the NFL, these guys, they're the next quarterback, but they're going to have to kind of ease into it. They're talking about years to get to be the starter.
Put on the analyst's hat the best you can, and your expectations for this team. Just, you've been around the building, you know it more than anybody here in the media.
Yeah.
I don't want to put you in a weird position to make a bold prediction or anything, but what does it feel like from the inside about how the potential this team has?
Well, again, I think I can answer that with the answer I used earlier. They walk into this facility, not because of the facility, but because of the number of guys that have built the tradition and the expectation here. And I'm talking about all 110 or 105 guys on all these teams. Yeah. They believe they can win a national championship. So I expect them to be in that talk, in that selection, in that opportunity. Is it hard to win a national championship? Yeah, it's really hard. Yeah. One team does it, 130 FCS programs. So that would be my vision for them, expectation for them. But again, we just talked about that. That's not what you talk about as a head football coach.
Yeah. Okay. So you just got the Canton experience. Adam Vinatieri was the kicker when you were defensive coordinator under Mike Daly, 1991 to 94. He's the second Jackrabbit and the second South Dakota native to ever go into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Had you been there before?
Or is this
okay?
Nope.
So before we get into Adam, just for someone like me who's never made the trip but someday wants to, what can we expect?
Well, I like museums, all right? I think the history and the stories, whatever the theme is, well, the museum, if you will, the Hall of Fame is unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, the stories you can dig into. Now, you go on this weekend, on the weekend, it's like a feedlot. Yeah. There are so many people there. And so I'm going to go back someday. My wife and I will go back someday and spend some more quality time there. But it was that part of it was really special. And to be able to, and people laugh at me with this, but be able to go to a screen and touch the screen and see all the teams and touch the team and see all the inductees and touch a guy's name and then read his personal story and his NFL story and just, I thought, how cool is this? And I mean, it doesn't do anything doesn't take anything to create that, but I had access to the knowledge of all those guys. And so names that were familiar, names we competed against, or teams that we competed against. I'm kind of a Green Bay Packer fan because of Tucker Kraft and they're somewhat local. So I looked at probably a few more Packers than others, but it was really fun.
What kind of access did you have to Adam Vinatieri? How much did you get to see him? When? And what were the nature? Yeah. What was the nature of the conversation?
Well, let me go over what I experienced. So I got there Thursday, was delayed, and didn't have tickets for the game, the Hall of Fame game. So otherwise, I could have gone to that. They have a fashion show. They have a parade. They have a whatever. The next thing I went to was Friday night. I went to the gold coat or jacket ceremony. That was phenomenal. At that, Adam came to all the tables that he'd invited and visited with everybody individually. So that was it was a 5 o'clock to 10 o'clock with the ceremony and the meal and so on. And then Saturday I went to the enshrinement. I went to the Hall of Fame. I went to the enshrinement, and that night the Colts had a party for him at a vineyard. And so I went to that, obviously really fancy, really well done, and I was able to visit with him, take a picture with him there. That was after the enshrinement, and so the first thing out of his mouth was my humor okay, Coach?
Yeah.
Because if you listen to his speech.
Oh, I did.
And I simply said, you caught me off guard, and I smiled.
Was he always like that? Because that was a real, I mean, there were moments of sweetness and sentimentality, and made sure he wanted to be remembered as a great father, husband, teammate, all that. But, I mean, yeah, there was a lot of stand-up comedy there. It was kind of a swashbuckling speech. Was that the way he was when he was here?
I was told that's the way he was. I don't think you see that side of a player as a coach, or the whole player as a coach, good or bad, right? But I asked a couple people about this speech, and they said that's Adam.
Okay.
Now, that might be a McAfee kind of a DNA kind of trickling over, because that's kind of his personality.
Cordell was thinking maybe some of the same joke writers for the Tom Brady roast were joke writers for this. But did it surprise you, or for lack of a better word, bother you, that he didn't bring up his college alma mater in his speech the way a lot of players do?
Yeah, I would say I didn't. Surely I'm disappointed that didn't come up, but everybody has feelings for their experiences differently, and I don't think it's necessarily negative. It just wasn't one of the top things. He had 10 minutes, and he covered what he needed to cover. When I walked up to him and got my picture with him, and this is subjective, not objective, but it's been a long day. He's taken a ton of pictures. He's talked to all these guests at this event after, and he goes to this gal who's organizing. He goes, "Hey, it's my coach from South Dakota State," and there was a true excitement, I think, for us to be together. And so I'm gonna end with that feeling about South Dakota State and Anna Vinatieri.
Do you feel that I felt that he missed out on the opportunity to explain how, again, you only get so much time. But if you're trying to send the message of don't give up and believe in yourself, I mean, this is a guy who was benched by Mike Daly for a few games, still punted, and who Mike said was a better punter than a kicker. But, in Division II, he was missing extra points, gets benched, gets his job back, doesn't get drafted, goes to Europe for a year. I mean, how much do you know or feel like that point at SDSU, which is probably the low point of his football career post-high school, helped in some way him become the kicker that he did? Because you probably have some insight into how he went from that to a pro and the greatest ever.
Well, I think just like building this program, everything either adds to it or takes away from it, right? And so every experience Adam had along his journey, whether it was his time here or going to Florida and working with, I think, Blevins, the kicking coach, or whatever the guy's name was, going to Europe, going to New England, as I read about it, to motivate the veteran kicker, and didn't expect him to beat him up. All that stuff adds to it. I think your point is really, really powerful, though. His story is unbelievable. I mean, if I talk about people, young people especially, pursue your dream. Well, Adam defines that. He literally defines that. I mean, he was told you can't do it repeatedly along the way, and he just stuck. And I talked to his dad about that, and his dad said he's always been like that. When he sets his mind on something, he's going to go after it until it can't happen.
Did he just get a personal coach? I mean, what
Yeah, he went to I think it was Florida.
Okay.
And had a guy he worked with, and I'll send you an article.
Okay.
I read an article. The title of the article, kind of references what we're talking about. Yeah. Adam Vinatieri is the most unlikely guy to be in the Hall of Fame, and then it talks about his journey, just what we're talking about.
Very, very cool. Well, thank you for all of that insight, and you'll have more from Iowa State and watching Jimmy Rogers operate the next time we chat with you. I mean, I was going to ask you about that, but you haven't been there yet. So let's just do that next time, sometime in September, and always enjoy chatting with you. It feels great that the second we arrived to spend a whole day here, that we started off talking to John Stiegelmeier, watching practice. So this was a pleasure. Thank you.
Well, it's a pleasure for me, and like I've said, you do a tremendous job in your role, and it's always a treat to visit.
All right. John Stiegelmeier here on Happy Hour. Cheers.